Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to the Weekly Trend Rate, where we discuss this week's top stories regarding the Trump administration. I'm your host, Jordan Sosa, and this week we have updates on the US-China tariff war being at new highs. We have updates on immigration like Kilmer Garcia, a man sent back to El Salvador on accident, and Mahmoud Khalil, who was a Columbia student that was detained and is scheduled for deportation. And Harvard losing $2.2 million in federal funding for not changing its policies. To start off with the US-China tariff war, it's been a game of chicken for the past 2 weeks. Last week, China announced it was done retaliating against Trump, calling any further increase from the Trump administration a joke. China's actually chosen to fight back in other places like American services and increasing export control on rare earth minerals. This will require Chinese companies to get special licenses to export these resources, which restricts the US's access to these minerals needed for semiconductors, missile defense systems, and solar cells. Currently, China's effective tariff rate is 245% after going back and forth. And before they called any further increase a joke, China raised US tariffs to 125%. In their most recent move, Beijing targeted Boeing, which is America's largest exporter. They ordered Chinese airlines to not take any more deliveries from Boeing and requested carriers not purchase any more aircraft-related equipment or parts from US companies. This is good for them because it adds pressure on another part of the US, with Boeing already struggling with a lingering quality control crisis. Chinese state media also urged Chinese users to stop using American technology and switch to more local alternatives. After a lot of their non-tariff related retaliations, the biggest targets are Apple, Tesla, and pharmaceutical companies that can still face sanctions and export controls. Earlier this week, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Trump's open to making a deal, but China has to make the first move. In a response, a spokesperson from China's Ministry of Commerce said that China is open to negotiate, but the US must stop its threats and blackmailing. One of China's worries is not being able to trust the US to keep their word if they decide on a deal. Now, moving on to our first immigration update. Kilmer Garcia is a 29-year-old father of 3 who was living in Maryland for 13 years before he was deported to El Salvador. He was accidentally sent to Sica, a Salvadorian mega prison, a month ago on a plane filled with 300 other migrants. His wife identified him through one of the videos shared at the prison, and since then the case has blown up since he initially left the country due to gang violence and he had no criminal record like many of the other migrants that were sent there. This is a big deal because there's been videos that have shown how bad the conditions are there, and being an innocent person makes it so much worse. The Trump administration even admitted in court papers that Garcia was sent due to an administrative error. We've since come to learn that the main piece of evidence tying him to the gang MS-13 was an arrest he had in 2019 because he was wearing Chicago Bulls paraphernalia, and an anonymous informant suggested that he was part of the gang with a particular affiliation to New York, even though he's never lived in New York. Judge Paula Zinnes previously ordered the administration to bring Garcia back, but he's still there. She says the government hasn't complied with her order of getting regular updates on his condition. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen met with Garcia, as seen in a picture that was shared this week. Van Hollen said his main goal was just to meet with Garcia, and Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele said that now he's been confirmed healthy, he gets the honor of staying in Salvadorian custody. Even though the administration admitted that it was an error, they're still standing behind the fact that he's part of MS-13. White House Deputy Press Secretary Kush Desai called the meeting disgusting and said that the Democrats' top priority is the safety of an illegal alien MS-13 terrorist. Trump has said that he's not involved in the matter and that we'd have to hear from the lawyers at the Department of Justice, adding that he was elected to get those criminals out of this country. Now onto Mahmoud Khalil, a 30-year-old Columbia student that is a permanent U.S. resident that was arrested on campus last month and is scheduled for deportation after playing a key role in the pro-Palestinian movement last year. The Trump administration has already revoked hundreds of visas for international students, targeting those with particular political ideas. In this case, Khalil is said to support Hamas, which is a known terrorist group, and has made Jewish students feel unsafe. One of the arguments against Khalil is that after his arrest, he lied on U.S. residency application forms, which is a deportable offense. Last week, an immigration judge in Louisiana ruled that Secretary of State Marco Rubio can deport Khalil under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, which states that any non-citizen can be removed if the Secretary of State deems their presence is a threat to U.S. foreign policy. Rubio characterized Khalil's ideas as anti-Semitic, which goes against U.S. foreign policy. But Khalil's attorney submitted evidence in the form of a CNN article in which Khalil was asked what he would say to Jewish students that felt unsafe on campus, which he replied that he would say that the liberation of Palestinian and Jewish people are intertwined, that they go hand in hand. Anti-Semitism and any form of racism have no place on campus and in this movement. Khalil has until the 23rd to file for relief and can stay in the US until then. And this week, we've seen crazy videos of how ICE agents have been detaining their suspects.
Yo no he cometido un delito. Dígame por qué y deme la orden. Ya le dije. Deme la orden.
Dele la orden.
No le voy a dar la orden. La orden está en el No, pues no me voy a bajar.
Entonces le tiene que...
Si no me baja, si no,
No,
me...
you
No,
know?
ahí deja que lo revienten.
No,
ahí
if it's against... No! No me!
We also heard of Harvard losing $2.2 billion in research grants for pushing back to demands to change school policy. Last week, the administration sent out a letter for changes in leadership, student discipline, extensive government oversight, and cooperation with immigration officials. Harvard President Alan M. Garber has previously said that anti-Semitism is a problem that he's experienced directly while serving as president, and that the university has taken steps in the last 15 months to reduce it. Across the university, federal money accounted for 10.5% of total revenue in 2023, not including financial aid. As far as they know, Harvard isn't clear of what might be frozen specifically. For example, at other campuses, details of the cuts they face only became clear as work orders were halted over time. An education department official at Harvard said that hospitals associated with the university won't be affected though. But Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health said that 26% of its budget last year was funded through federal grants, which paid for research on things like cancer, Alzheimer's, strokes, and HIV. But Harvard has a $53 billion endowment, which is the largest of any school in the country. But many donors have earmarked their contributions for specific goals and purposes. School leaders have said that it's not an all-purpose account that can be used for anything. The freeze started on Monday night as work orders took effect on major contracts. One of the stopped work orders was for a large contract that focused on unraveling how the immune system fights tuberculosis with the goal of creating better detection.